Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk. I'm Shekhar Gupta in Australian High Commission in New Delhi. And I'll tell you what, it's one of those days when I can say I really love my job. Because if I didn't do what I do, I would not have Adam Gilchrist
Okay, how are you?
captive for half an hour.
Oh, well, not captive. It's a great pleasure to be joining you and here on Australian turf, so to speak.
Australian turf, but also on a day of English cricket weather.
That's right. Australia was terrorised by the rain over there.
Absolutely. In fact, this year's Champions Trophy, yes.
Yeah.
Rain defeated Australia.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, some may say it saved them against New Zealand, and some will say it cost them a game against Bangladesh, but that's the great thing about cricket. You can't control what happens up there, can you? You just got to play the conditions.
I think the English conspired.
Oh, you think so?
I think they can
Well, it
fix
didn't
their
help
weather.
them in the end, did it?
Didn't
Yeah,
help them
they
in
got
the
knocked
end.
out by the champions.
Yeah, because that's because we were rooting for Pakistanis that day, because we'll root for anybody who defeats England.
Yes, yeah, sure. Okay. I
Even
understand.
Australia.
Yeah, wow, that's a big revelation.
and if you can say Pakistan, then anybody.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
England have a problem there. So Adam, you now have a new avatar, as we say in our country. You are an education ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a bit about that, and then we get into mind of the cricketer.
The mind of the cricketer, yeah. Yeah, you're right. I'm here as Australia-India Education Ambassador. It's my third trip in this role. I've been coming for about 9 or 10 years representing a university in Australia. So education and blending my passion of cricket and India, obviously Australia and education all together is fantastic. And really this role, it's appointed from the Australian government to enhance the relationship between the two countries in education and sport, and where that can take the young people of today into the future. And as I say, I'm from a family of teachers.
Yes.
My father was a teacher, my mother was a teacher, my siblings are teachers. So education is very much an important part, has played a very big role in my life, and it's great to be able to talk to.
And frankly, you are a bit of teacher also. If I make a close reading of your autobiography, you are a, I mean, I don't want to stereotype an Australian cricketer, but
Loudmouth.
but you are a deeply reflective and thinking cricketer.
Yeah, I guess it's interesting to say, you mentioned about reading my autobiography, and I think the most often commented phrase from people is they're amazed at how much I revealed about myself,
Right.
and how much I looked inner rather than externally in writing
Right.
that and compiling
Right.
that, and maybe about how much self-doubt I had as
Yes,
a
in
player,
fact,
because
it-
they thought I went out there and just was confident all the time.
When we saw you playing, and frankly hated you, because we saw you this Australian bully who comes out and throws his bat around, and it doesn't matter what you're bowling at him, and the game just changes, because those days
I
I
don't know,
think
Harbhajan might beg to differ.
Well-
He knocked me over pretty quickly a few times.
a bit later,
Yeah, yeah.
until we turn things around. But until then, you, Hayden, I mean, that Australian batting lineup would steal a test match away
Yeah,
in one session.
Yeah, I
right?
think-
Usually first session of a test match.
yeah.
To imagine that Adam Gilchrist was somebody who harbored such self-doubts, was it a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it
Is it a positive thing or a negative thing for
I
a
think
cricketer?
it was a positive thing for the predominant amount of my career. And I don't say that I was self-doubt where I was a mess in the change rooms,
Right.
didn't believe. I believed in myself. I think in my mind, it was all about preparation. And if I could sit there on game day and say, have I done the training? Have I prepared as well as I can possibly prepare? If I could sit there on game day and tick all those boxes, I would relax and then just allow what was going to happen. If I couldn't tick those boxes, I got nervous and doubt would come in. But I think it worked positive for me. I think it's like nerves. I think everyone should have a few little nerves if they're
Right.
getting into something, because it shows that it means something to you. You're concerned about presenting well or performing well or the outcomes. So that means that it sharpens you up. And I think I was able to harness that self-doubt or the uncertainty. I think that's probably as much what it was. You're just not sure. You just wish you knew what the result was going to be, so you didn't have to wrestle those emotions
But
and
your
nerves.
self-doubt started from the moment you stepped into the team, stepping into Ian Healy's gloves. I'm twisting a metaphor
Yeah,
instead
I
of
like
boots
that. I like
or a
that.
wicket-keeper, yes.
Yeah, Yeah, well, such big gloves to fill. An idol of mine, Ian Healy, almost keeping perfection to Shane Warne. So for me to be suddenly thrust into that position, yeah, it was a big challenge. And I was nervous and uncertain if I could maintain that standard that he'd maintained. So I guess quickly I just had to try and work out that I didn't need to be Ian Healy. I needed to learn all I could from him, but I needed to be the best version of myself. And I think immediately of what people used to say about when MS Dhoni came along and started doing what he was doing, and people said, oh, he's the next Adam Gilchrist, which is a wonderful compliment to me, but I was very quick to say, no, he's the first MS Dhoni, because he's just being his player type and doing it the way he wants, and getting great results. So that's what I tried to do, not be and replicate Ian Healy. I just needed to become my own self.
But was there that pressure of coming up to Shane Warne's expectations?
Yes, definitely, because as I say, the relationship between keeper and bowler in any cricket team is so vital and so important. But for Shane, I mean, that's the highlight of my career, to keep wickets to Shane Warne. Just the best bowler, you know, certainly one of the best ever to play the game. And to sit down and have that intimate relationship with him. But yeah, the pressures of an expectation of being up to that standard was high.
How long did it take you to get him to acknowledge that you were good enough? Because you know the story goes that he preferred his own teammate, Darren Berry.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't ever remember. I don't remember that being a focus at the start about whether Shane thought I was good enough or not. It was more I was just trying to channel everything to being the best I could and build that relationship with him. And he was great at training. I'd say, can he bowl a bit more so I could watch more deliveries? Right. I did have 2 years of one-day cricket with him before I played Test cricket, so I was familiar with him. But I certainly don't remember a time in my career where I stopped and thought, he's finally accepted me.
Yes.
I never felt that with him or any player. I was hoping to attain the respect and confidence and acknowledgement from my teammates, because that's your peers are the ones that you want that acknowledgement from, more so probably than the fans and the press and the media, because they're the ones you've got to do it with. But I don't remember ever searching for that moment or receiving that moment. It wasn't that big a deal to me.
You started as you made your entry even into the domestic league as a batsman.
Yep.
Is that now the curse of the wicket-keeper? Because there was a time when wicket-keepers could be in the team just for the craft of keeping.
Yeah. My whole cricketing career, from that big, I was always, the batting was more natural for me. So I guess that was something I've always done. So it wasn't like I was a wicket-keeper and thought, I've got to improve my batting to make an impact. I was always a batsman and I loved wicket-keeping. So the batting came more naturally, so I worked a lot harder in my training on my wicket-keeping. But yeah, I think one-day cricket was that was the catalyst for change.
Because in some ways, wicket-keeper is the pivot of the side.
Yeah, very much a focal point. Yeah. And some keepers, I saw my job to be the leader of the fielding unit. So to be energetic, to talk, not necessarily to sledge, but to be vocal, to talk up the bowlers, talk up the fielders, encourage, run up to the stumps nearly every delivery, and just to get the fielder to throw the ball in. And if nothing else, that means the batsman that's not batting, that's sitting in the change room, the batting team up there are watching going, gee, they're into this, they're really keen. Yeah, right. Even if you're exhausted, just try to create that perception. Right. And that goes back to the mindset too, and mental strength. I think a lot of players had self-doubt, but you had to wear a cape of bravado and try to bluff your way through and create a perception that you're fine.
Did the Australians overdo it a little bit when they were dominant around?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt there's been times where if we looked back, and it's not just, I don't want to specific individuals, but there's been periods of time where I reflect back and think, we probably didn't need to be so verbally aggressive. We're pretty dominant anyway. And even, but I think people need to understand that as a young cricketer coming through, we're always taught about this aggressive Australian approach. So it's almost like a badge of honour that you need to wear and be able to carry off. I see a change in India's mindset in the years that I played and to now, and we saw the really spiteful series, aggressive verbal series just recently completed, which I think, again, reflecting at that, if you had time again, both teams could probably afford to tone it down a little bit. There's no real positives to come out of it, but it's so challenging when you're in the heat of the battle to withdraw yourself and have a look and make an assessment on what the ramifications will be if you act that way. So, it's something that you can't change. You can only hope that you can educate the future and they can have a good balance.
So would you call Virat Kohli, the most Australian of Indian captains?
Well, Sourav Ganguly was pretty... he really instilled a great deal of inner steel and belief into that team that he led. Just thinking 2001. Just something as subtle as making Steve Waugh wait for the toss. Just little thing that's not necessarily a big verbal thing, but it's a tactic that started to question Australia's dominance.
You think it was deliberate?
I think so.
You think so?
I think so.
Did you guys discuss it?
Oh, I think it annoyed Steve Waugh. I think it's been talked about a lot. But Sourav was very, I think, well planned and calculated, and he's a deep thinker of the game.